mood for the clown face. Oh my God, he's so scary.
He's so scary. No, like, oh God.
Hi guys, it's Lori.
Hey, it's Sarah, and welcome back to another episode of the Mindful Witchery podcast.
Yay!
Yay! Oh my God, so it's a very special episode today.
Oh, Sarah, we are in spooky season mode.
It's officially October when this airs.
Yes.
So we figured, why not talk about our favorite thing? One of our favorite things?
Horror movies.
Horror movies. Do you say horror?
I say horror. It kind of sounds like horror when I say it.
Horror. Carson was making fun of me. He's like, what did you just say? Horror.
I know, when I say it, it sounds like horror, so, horror movies. Yeah. Just like I say oil and, oil.
Orange.
Oil, full, yeah.
Is that a southern thing or a Boston thing? Maybe that's where I got it when I lived down south.
There you go. You pick up things.
Which is a great place for a horror movie, I think. There's a lot of parts of down south.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about, you start, I know when we go to certain places down south and it's out in the middle of nowhere, you start hearing the theme to Deliverance in your head, and it's,
I did a few in my head, because I used to drive around a lot alone, like all across country, and there was a few times where I'd be going down this dirt road and I'm like, this is it. This is where I go. I've seen too many. Yeah. I'm like speaking out loud to myself sometimes, like, this is it. I've seen too many horror movies, and I just start in my head. I start playing like what is it?
Dueling banjos?
Yeah, just like
do 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 do.
Like, this is it, and like a tree falls in front of my car.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible for scaring myself. Like, Roger and I will be out at night driving around or something, and I literally scare myself. I'll be, out somewhere, and we'll have to stop on a dark road so I can go pee or something, and we'll stop, and I'll get back in the car and I'll go, wouldn't it be weird if
somebody just walked out of the woods?
Yeah, or we'll be driving down the road and I'll go, wouldn't it be weird if we saw a kid standing on the side of the road with a balloon? And then we go a little further, and then that same kid shows up again and again and again. And the farther we go, the kid still continues to show up. Why do I do that to myself? Why do we do? Isn't it? I think it's fun to be scared.
I do too. It's like an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to do with having ADD. To bring it back to that, honestly, because we constantly need this stimulation. What's a better stimulation than fear?
Exactly. I mean, I would rather watch a good horror movie and get scared to pieces than be on a roller coaster any day of the week.
Yeah, I do like roller coasters, though.
I do too.
I like not being in control, which is weird. That's like the one time where I'm like, whatever happens is going to happen. But it might be that stimulation thing. It's like all the time I'm always thinking, you know what? We were talking about this earlier, but like the whole New Salem, Mass, Petersham area has those creepy horror movie vibes. I've driven down those roads at night, and I'm like, this is it. Somebody's just gonna come out of the woods when my car breaks down, and
your car's gotta break down. If it's gonna break down, it's not gonna break down on 91, which is scary enough. It's gonna break down in the middle of nowhere, like New Salem or Wendell.
I always imagined in my head driving down like a one-way road, like in Mass, there's all these weird, they're two-way roads, but they're actually one-way roads.
But they're really small,
dirt roads, and all of a sudden I'm driving down the road and there's just a car sitting, facing me, and all of a sudden they turn their lights on and then come at me. That must be in a movie that I've seen.
It is. There's a movie called The Car, and that's one thing that we can talk about later.
I was thinking about Christine when you said that.
Yes. There's a better one than Christine. It's called The Car. It was made back in 1976. Really good one. James Brolin stars in it. Barbara Streisand's husband.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard
really
of that
good.
one.
This car from hell just comes out of nowhere, and I mean it runs over people, and it's really this whole entire school gets stuck in this graveyard, and really it's
I
crazy.
need to see that.
The Car.
I'm gonna write that down.
Scared me to death when I was a kid.
The Car. Is it like when do people get locked in the car?
No, the car is driven by nobody. That's the weird thing. It's possessed. It's driven by nobody. And then at the end, there's kind of a cheesy ending. You know, sometimes with horror movies, that's its weakness, is it kind of tries to wrap things up, and it ends up being kind of cheesy.
Yep.
That's what happens with the car. They blow the car up. Like,
to me, if I was writing a horror movie, I would make sure I would write the ending first.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I feel like so many people like put so much in like the meat of it that they just forget about the beginning and ending.
They kind of get, with the details, they get overwhelmed. Like with the middle.
Yeah.
And
it's where they put all their money and they're like, we ran out of money.
And it's almost too much. Yeah. And then by the end, it's like, oh, we ran out of money. We got like $2 left, so let's do this ending.
Just kill everybody off.
Yeah, we'll just kill everybody off at the end. But yes, the car, you must see the car. Guys, if you haven't seen it, honestly, I don't know how what you think of like the 1970s kind of schlocky sort of movies, but this one is worth a go. And the car itself it's huge and black and beautiful, and you just have to see it.
I think the 70s came out with some of the best movies.
Yep.
And horror movies.
Yep. Legend of Boggy Creek.
The Thing.
Yep.
That was 80. Not The Thing. Yeah, maybe it was. I wrote that down. No, The Thing was 82, which also the 80s had a lot of great horror movies too, obviously, but like early 80s, 70s.
Yeah. Last House on the Left. 72.
Yep.
Great movie.
We were just saying, what was the one we were just talking about? The Killer Clowns.
Yep, Killer Clowns.
Yeah, the invasion of the Killer Clowns? No. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yes.
That one. Oh, and The Blob.
The Blob, yeah.
Was The Fly 70s? Or
80s.
The 80s?
Yeah, it was 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, tangent. So, we have so many movies to talk about today.
And you know what's funny is that I was thinking about this morning. If you think about favorite horror movies, it all kind of melts together with the idea of a horror movie and a thriller. Because sometimes I look at horror movies as kind of more kind of schlocky and cheesy sort of in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then thrillers are more psychological kind of.
Yeah.
And they kind of meld together sometimes because one will scare me, but then the other will scare me just as much. So it's
which one do you prefer?
Yeah. I think I like horror movies. I think I prefer horror movies. I just like that whole big scare. Big scare, not those little, not those little. That was a little bit intense. No, I want a big scare.
Yeah,
I want to
like go for the goals.
I want to chill. I want a Hellraiser chill.
Yeah,
I want to.
Because there's so many different genres of scary horror movies too, like psychological thrillers. There's like mind fucky.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the best way to say it. Like those kind, and then there's slasher, which is 80s slasher movies
80s
are
slasher
so good.
Movies.
What's some of the other genres? Like more like messed up. That's more like psychological.
Yeah, more like psychological thrillers. Yeah, there's so many.
God,
there's so
many.
It's such a huge jumping off point. I mean, when somebody says to me, "What's your favorite horror movie?" I kind of have to say, "Are you talking about a thriller, or are you talking about a horror movie, or are you talking about a slasher movie?"
Like, let's talk about it.
That's like asking me what my favorite song is.
Yeah, or my favorite food.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
It's layered and it's complicated and. Yeah, plus it depends what mood I'm in, right? Oh, gore. Gore is the other one, which that's the one I'm not really into so much. I appreciate it
for its artistic value and its own way. If it's done right,
yeah, like slasher gore, a little bit different because they don't show as much.
Right.
But, like Hostel, not a fan.
No.
I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm that way with Saw.
Yep.
The Saw series.
That's another one. I appreciate that. I remember seeing in the movie theaters. I appreciated the first one so much because it was new for what it was, and it really opened up the door for
very
so many
gutsy.
other.
It was a very gutsy move. It could have failed miserably.
Oh yeah, and been like okay. But...
Now my son, who is not here right now, my son Daniel, who was going to actually kind of come in and be our special guest today. He walked out on me. He said he was too nervous. And I think part of it was he's thought so much about it. Yeah. He thought so much, but then he said that he made a good point about the Saw movies.
Mm-hmm.
He loves the series. He said if he had to pick, that would be his favorite.
Yep.
And he said the biggest part of Saw that really gets him is that that could actually happen.
Yeah.
He said, there's nothing to say that you can't get knocked out by a baseball bat one day and end up in a room where somebody's amusing themselves by making you miserable.
It happens every day.
Yep. He said that's the thing about Saw that really got him was you don't have to be scared of the monsters because the monsters are already here.
Mm-hmm. It played upon like normal fears that we all have, which is the type of movies that I love. And that's when you leave.
That's when you leave the theater and you go and you think about it all the way home in the dark.
Yeah.
You're thinking about it. In bed that night, you're thinking about it.
You sleep with the lights on that night. You double check the locks on the doors.
So that's how I felt about, and again, this is one that people are either going to go, oh, I hated it, or oh my God, I loved it. But Blair Witch, I felt that way about.
Yeah.
I felt like that I have that as one of my favorites. Not necessarily because I could sit and watch it over and over again. It's not one of those. But I remember going to see that movie, and just the whole idea of the camera angle, the observational angle of the camera where you didn't know, you were in her head or his head, and you didn't know what was going to come out of that dark space that they were in.
Genius.
The absolute genius. And the whole hype around it when they said, oh, we found the video.
When it came out, I seriously thought it was real.
Oh, me too.
I think I was like 13 maybe when it came out. I couldn't watch it because I thought it was real.
The only thing that bothered me throughout that movie, though, the one thing that
exactly what you're gonna say
was her screaming, her scream, and the way she talked, and that one scene where they're really close to her face and the little bead of snot's coming out. Yeah, it bugged me. But by the end of that movie, I was so exhausted. I looked at my friend who went with me and I said, Amber, if this movie doesn't end in 5 minutes, I'm walking out.
I'm done.
I'm done. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I felt like I was the one who'd been out in the woods for 4 days.
It's the type of like anxiety and breathing that you do. Like it feels like it's in your throat. Like that type of breathing where you like by the end of it, you have oxygen, like,
and you find yourself breathing like her, because you hear her constantly, and you feel yourself like doing that. That movie was pure genius. Whether you like the plot or not, that movie was pure genius.
I mean, some of the acting was awful.
It came out at a time when there was nothing else like it. I mean, then you got Paranormal Activity, which was sort of in the same vein, which was scary. Yeah. But not Blair. It's not like Blair Witch.
Oh, don't even get me started about that lady in, oh my God, Paranormal Activity. I wanted her to die.
Me too.
She is probably the least likable character.
Yeah, she was bad.
Like, I've watched the car sit and he's just like, that bitch needs to die. Like, she needs to go. I appreciate that movie too, because both those movies really opened up this new way of thinking for horror movies, because we went through a good decade, I know, don't come at me, but like, of not so good.
Not so great.
So when CGI came out, not a fan. What's some? The Boogeyman, awful. Like when they thought that CGI was scary, no, those movies just like when you can tell it's from a computer, don't even.
And that was the thing too. I think that we spent a lot of years with teenage horror flicks that were just, they weren't like the teenage horror flicks of the 80s, which Friday the 13th, Halloween, all those, which were great. The teenage horror movies kind of in the 90s, 2000 range were more entitled kids. Yes. And they were annoying as hell. Yeah.
And I didn't really think about it that way. Like, I appreciate Scream, another movie that really opened up the doors to things. I mean, they killed the main character in the first, was it like the first 10 minutes? It was Drew Barrymore, correct? Yeah. Done. Awesome. Because, like, in the 80s, even though I loved it, it was so, like, formulaic. Like, you
knew what was going to happen.
You knew kids at camp. You knew it was going to happen. Some guy with a knife is going to come.
2 kids are having sex. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon gets stabbed. And which one? Was that the second one?
I'm sitting here writing as you're saying that.
Oh, God. Is that the... Oh, my God. I can't believe I can't remember. Is that the second... I'm going to look that up.
But it's the kids got so entitled. Like, what are those movies where oh gosh, what are those movies where they they know they're gonna die? There's a bunch of them.
All I can think of is Kevin Bacon.
Oh
right
my
now.
God, the kids are so entitled, and the movie Ouija. Those kids are so entitled.
I couldn't really finish that
Oh
movie.
my God.
Oh, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
It is the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if it was that or the second one. Mm-hmm. Both are good. Oh my God, now I'm seeing like all the movies. I'm looking up Kevin Bacon right now. Stir of Echoes.
Oh, I just wrote that down. Isn't that funny?
Why didn't I remember? That was one of my favorite. 1999.
That movie was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Stir of Echoes. I've watched Stir of Echoes probably a million times. And every time I noticed something different.
It's so, that's another movie that really was different.
And I loved him. I loved his character. I loved that. I mean, I didn't love that he was kind of going crazy. I didn't like his wife. For some reason, she bothered me. But I loved his character. I thought he was so... you remember feeling like there was something special about him and he didn't know there was something special?
Yeah.
Like he thought he was this ordinary person, and it turns out that this was the most important thing that ever happened to him, was figuring out what happened to that girl.
God, I love that movie.
I love that movie.
Oh, I can't believe I forgot about that. So, oh my God. So the theme of today was Lori and I wanted to talk about our like top 5, we'll say, horror movies. I couldn't come up with 5.
We've been thinking about this for weeks, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, this was a topic that came up, and I literally have been laying awake at night thinking about horror movies and what would I pick if I had to pick a single one, and why I would pick that, what it did to me, what kind of emotional response did it bring out in me, or was it just a roller coaster ride?
Yeah.
Because some are just roller coaster rides. Yep. They're just fun.
Oh, yeah. Like Cabin in the Woods, which I saw today. I was watching it while I was studying today. It's so good. What another movie that really opened up. No movie has come after that that was quite like it. I think they kind of like took that genre and just like killed it for everybody else because it's a hard movie to live up to, like the actual horror, but it's comedy too. What a great movie. And,
I know.
Who's in it? One of the Skarsgård, who was Thor. What's his face? He's the cute one.
Oh gosh, he was in the vampire show True Blood.
Nope.
No, not that one.
No.
Was it the other one?
Skarsgård. That's who I was thinking of, but no, it's
Hemsworth.
Yeah.
Was it Chris or
Chris Hemsworth.
Liam Hemsworth? Okay.
Yeah, he's in it. Which I forgot he was in it. He like plays some like weird jock, but anyway, I just fast forward to the good parts when like they go down into the basement and like the people are placing bets on who's gonna come out first. It ended up being like the redneck zombie family.
There's so many. You can go in so many directions with horror movies, and I think that it's amazing just the things that you can do with them and the places that you can go, and the fact that, especially when you have like a courageous director or a courageous author where these are based on. Like I'm thinking about Clive Barker right now, who is just insane.
He was on my list. I actually wrote down a bunch of directors too that people should check out because they haven't even... They've done so many things, these particular directors.
I mean, Clive Barker, man, how do you come up with Hellraiser and Candyman? Two of the greatest horror, in my opinion, two of the greatest horror movies ever.
Yep.
I mean, it does not get much better. Yeah. It does not get much better than the Cenobites and Hellraiser.
Yeah, because we talked about this before, but Hellraiser is our favorite series.
And I was in love with Pinhead.
Oh, same. Oh.
Totally in love.
Oh, God. And then when there was, I always forget her name, but the female version of Pinhead, too, like, scary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the one that the Jawbreaker guy, the
Chatterbox.
Yes.
Oh, and the kind of like the blobby one.
I
think he came on the second one. I don't know if he was in the first one.
But the one that was like the female Pinhead.
Yeah.
Had that voice that was just stunning. Yes. Oh my gosh. Those movies are just, and even the second one, we were talking about this. The second one is just as good, if not better, than the first one.
I am a huge fan of the second one. I really am. And they both they just bring it to the table. They really do. I actually wrote down some facts that I was looking up before because I remember we were talking about, like, there's like 1 trillion Hellraisers.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've kept going. I've seen some. I was talking about one with a rave.
Mm-hmm.
That one's called Hellworld.
Okay.
And it's like, people go, and it's kind of like a role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
You, like, go to this house, but it's like a rave. It was weird. I didn't like it, but there's actually 10.
Can you believe there are 10?
In the newest one was in 2018. I didn't even realize it came out with a second one. But the guy, Doug Bradley, who played the original Pinhead, he was in 8 of them. He kept going.
I love him.
Yeah. What a cool guy. Like, for so long, I never got to meet him, but he does a lot of, like, shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can, like, meet and greet and things like that. That's so cool. I can't even imagine how old he is now. But
And now can you believe they're doing a remake? I think the remake's supposed to come out next year.
I had no idea.
I cannot deal with that.
Who's going to play
I can't deal with it. Well, it's just like Nightmare on Elm Street. There's the new version that's coming out next year or the year after, I think. Who, besides Robert Englund, is ever going to play Freddy Krueger?
I don't know.
I can't.
Don't know.
There are some things that need to be left alone. Like, just like, some people sing songs that are like, oh, no, you should never remake that song.
Don't ever, please.
It's the same thing with Hellraiser. I just don't know if I could even go to the theater and watch a remake of Hellraiser.
When they were talking about redoing Beetlejuice, I was like, what's wrong with you?
And they're redoing Candyman.
Yeah, my hopes are like at a 1. I'll give it a little bit. I'll give it a try. Like, I was impressed, to be honest with you. I was actually shocked how impressed I was. He's one of the
Skarsgård. Alexander Skarsgård. No, he's the other Skarsgård.
The other Skarsgård.
Yeah.
And wow. Wow. I was impressed. I was not expecting to like that movie at all.
I know, because how do you live up to Tim Curry as Pennywise?
I have no idea.
How do you do that? There was very little hope, I think, out there for people, and he really pulled it off. He made it his own, which had its pros and cons. But he made it his own.
He did.
Anybody who can do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and like not kill the movie. It's very hard to do. And it's very rarely done. So I always like, wow, good job. But
I don't know. It's Clive Barker. I just always go back to him because he just is a master. And I had Hellraiser and then I had Candyman down on my list because, first of all, I love the beautiful Virginia Madsen. I think she is so gorgeous. She's like the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. The one that played Helen.
I'm trying to remember what she looks like.
Blonde, blue eyes, just beautiful. Yeah. She's just gorgeous, and she did such a good job in that movie. I mean, in terms of taking on that role, and there was a chemistry there. As much as dark as that sounds, there was a huge amount of chemistry there between the Candyman and Helen.
Oh my God! Oh, yeah. I mean, it has been probably.
I watched it like a week ago.
It's probably been like over a decade since I've seen that movie. Oh,
and you brought up It, which makes me think. Roger and I were talking this morning, and I was going through again and saying, trying to figure out what my final five were going to be because they've switched a million times.
Yeah.
And I said, something? There is not one single Stephen King based movie in my top 5. How can that be?
I'm right there with you.
How can that be? I worship him. I mean, in terms of his books, I have them all over here on my bookshelf. I've read them all. I've read Desperation like 10 times, and I don't read books 10 times. But Stephen King is brilliant. But I don't know what happens. I don't know if the books are so good that they just don't quite transfer.
Translate. Castle Rock?
Yeah.
Didn't translate too well. I wasn't too impressed.
I did read that he said that his favorite movie that was ever made from his books was Pet Sematary.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. I like Salem's Lot. I had Salem's Lot in the firm top 10.
I forgot about Salem's Lot.
I had it put in the top 10, but I had no Stephen King's in my top 5. It just. Needful Things was really close. Pet Sematary, but the old It.
Christine, though, for me, it's more like this nostalgic thing. Because I saw it when I was so young. Like, when did that come out? Like 80s?
80s, yeah, definitely 80s. Yeah.
I remember seeing it as a kid. It was like on TV or something, and there was just something about that movie. And maybe it was just one of those movies that got me into horror movies, but I've never seen anything like it before, and it just did it for me. Like, probably not the best movie, but like that nostalgia of like, there's this scene where like oh my god, the knobs on the door lock. There's something about that. Or maybe that was Pee-wee's Playhouse that I'm thinking of. Oh, Large Marge. I get so many movies mixed up. Pee-wee's Playhouse, if you think about it, it's kind of a horror movie.
Yeah, kind of a horror movie.
Large Marge.
But I mean, I love Stephen King. I just can't. Yeah. And I remember there were years in the 80s, all of the 80s, I think.
I don't remember Stephen the
80s.
80s.
Yeah. I remember the 80s. I graduated in 87. But it was Stephen King would come out with a movie, like, it felt like every 2 months. There was a movie, I mean, there was Cujo, Christine, Needful Things. I mean...
The Langoliers. Wasn't there like this like 2-part series? It was like on ABC or something like that? I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, he just had stuff coming out right and left, and I don't even know that he was really proud of what was coming out of Hollywood for him at that time. But I think sometimes it's hard to live up to a book's hype. And his books are so good and so compelling and so memorable that it would be really hard to tap for one to measure up.
How do you tap, even if you've read his books, how does one tap into his brain to be able to reproduce something that he's written visually? If you can do it and think you're up for the challenge, I think a lot of people have tried.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have tried and failed. And, you know, you never know what's going to happen in the future. But I really wish, my favorite book by Stephen King is Desperation. And I really wish that they had made that into a full-length feature film instead of putting it on the Sci-Fi Channel.
I've never seen that.
It's just horrific.
Yeah, I've never
and
seen
not
it.
in a good way.
Not in a good type of horrific. So do you want to go over, do you want to say your top 5?
And it's hard because I have like a series as one of mine.
That's cool. Yeah.
So, all right. So first we already talked about my first one was Hellraiser. Hellraiser was definitely coming in first. Then I have the Conjuring series, specifically The Nun. I think that out of the horror genre, those are the best movies that have come out of the horror genre in at least a decade.
So there's a series of them, right? So I've only seen the original, The Conjuring, like, what's his name? Will something. The main actor's name? Yeah. Anyway, I remember that one.
Well, they had The Conjuring, and they had The Conjuring 2. They had both the Annabelle movies. They had The Nun. So there's several in the series. And I think what's so fun about that series is you have to make the connections yourself. They don't go over the top with what fits together. Like, it's not talked about a whole lot. But it's your job to kind of put everything together like a puzzle.
I didn't realize they were all connected.
And I think it's so cool. But my absolute favorite is The Nun. The Nun is... I think they did such a good job with making that really obscure connection in the Conjuring series.
So is that the one where it starts and she's like, the woman like falls out the window?
Yes.
Is that one?
She jumps out the window, yes.
I couldn't get through it. Like, I think I just wasn't in the right mindset. Maybe I'll go back and watch it.
It's really good. My son, he's funny about horror movies, and we were sitting in the theater watching it.
Oh, nice.
And she's the most horrific, the nun is the most horrific, horrifying character. And she looks like the most horrific, horrifying character. And he tapped me on the shoulder at one point and he goes, "Isn't she pretty?" just to kind of break the whole thing. He's like, "Isn't she pretty?"
Look at her eyes.
Now we always say that to each other if we're watching the movie or something. We're like, "Oh, she's so pretty."
You should get him that nun bag that I found.
Yes, I
found
that.
Like the nun handbag. Oh my God. It's so cool.
So that was my second one, right? Did I say that was my second one? Yep. All right. So my third favorite is Terrifier. And I don't know if any of you have seen Terrifier. It is about a clown that goes on a murderous rampage. I'm going to put his picture up on our Instagram page.
Because she just showed me before. I've never...
It is the stuff of nightmares.
Lori just put up a picture of it. I can't.
He doesn't speak. He doesn't make a sound through the movie, but some of the worst, most horrific murders I have ever seen in a horror movie. And it is a homage to 80s slasher movies. So, but they take it a step
Really
further.
far.
I mean, it's almost gore.
I think it's like slasher gore with an emphasis on gore.
Yeah, I think it really is. I mean, there's scenes in that movie where I don't turn my eyes away very often. There were a couple scenes in that movie I had to turn my eyes away. But the cool thing about it was, and I go back to what my kiddo said about it, this is something that taps into this fear of clowns, but also knowing that these kind of things can really happen.
Yeah.
Crazy psycho people go on murderous rampages every single day.
Fact.
And that's what makes this movie so scary. And the fact that he doesn't speak. And the fact that there's very little music in it that creates this really moody kind of atmosphere. It is just, it's one of the best movies, one of the best horror movies I've seen in a long time.
I do need to see it. I might wait though. But actually, when you mentioned he doesn't speak. So I'm taking an interpersonal relations or communication class. And what we've been talking about right now is how people communicate. And it just brought up this thing I was thinking about. So if somebody can't talk, they need to develop other ways of communicating so people can interpret what they're trying to portray. So this killer clown, it's him being nonverbal is almost uncomfortable in itself, because we're so used to being able to express ourselves verbally and talking with our hands and stuff like that. If he doesn't do that, how can you read him? So it's you have to create that mood and atmosphere. Oh, I need to see it.
He seems so genteel and so. I mean, he's just at the beginning. He's just a clown, and there's two girls in a restaurant who just kind of make fun of him, take advantage, of the situation, take pictures with him, sit down on his lap, and he has no reaction.
Oh,
none, no reaction. They go back out to their car. Their tires are slashed. And that's where it all begins. That's where all hell breaks loose.
Oh my God.
And it is crazy, and it is yucky, and it is horrific, and it is fun.
When did that come out?
That one came out, I think, in 2014.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
Just a fun ride. If you like horror movies, it's a fun ride. And then the other movie that for some reason I couldn't figure out the name, I kept getting it confused with another name, was Sinister.
Yeah.
And Ethan Hawke stars in that one. I love Ethan Hawke anyway, so it was a go for me from when I saw him. But if you haven't seen it, it's about a writer who writes crime dramas, and he moves into this house where this horrific murder happened, and finds these tapes, and plays these tapes, and figures out that there's well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but basically figures out that there's kids that are creating these situations that are happening in the tapes. Very scary. A lot of shock value. A lot of those, a lot of shock value. A lot of jump scares.
That's another one I haven't seen for a while.
That's a fun one. And I hesitate to call them fun because they're so dark, but it is fun. It's fun to be scared.
It's good to push yourself a little bit sometimes.
Sinister goes, Sinister's definitely on my list.
Yeah, I wrote that one down to watch because I haven't seen that one in a while.
And see, I can't wait to hear yours because you've probably seen some that I haven't seen.
Oh my God.
So I'm sitting here with my little pen in my hand waiting to hear.
Were those all yours?
Yes.
I had the hardest time, Lori.
Oh, this was so hard.
Because I've seen so many horror movies. I've seen so many movies that they all start blending together after a while, and I wanted to make sure I got the movie right.
Well, I have 15. I'm sitting here looking at my paper. I have 15 written down, and I literally just went, okay, what's my mood today?
Yeah.
And I just had to kind of go, through and whatever. Tomorrow, it may be something entirely different.
Oh, yeah, totally. Sometimes you want to be scared. Sometimes you want to, your brain to be what's going on.
Right now, I'm looking and I'm seeing Stir of Echoes. And that's one of my favorites, but I didn't fit it into the top 5. No. So
for some reason, my brain forgot about it.
Yes.
I can't believe it because it's one of my favorites. That actually, if I remembered that, it would have made my top 5. All right, you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
So these aren't in any particular order because I
Mine
can't do
either.
that.
Yeah.
The Orphanage, 2008. It's actually a Spanish film. Wow. I have a thing about children ghosts. And that's all I'll say, is The Orphanage is actually one of the scarier movies I've seen, based off of this particular scene that for some reason at the time just is forever in my memory. And that's all I can really say. For other people, it may not be so scary, but there's this particular scene, it has to do with little kids. And wow, at like an old orphanage, this family moves in. Something like that.
That sounds pretty scary.
Oh my God. I don't know.
Little ghost kids, you can't lose with those. You can't lose with it.
Yeah, and like the creepy little voices. And they're like, help.
Or if they hum or sing little nursery rhyme songs. No,
There's something. So that always comes to mind. That's always what I say when someone's like, what's your favorite horror movie? I did want to do a side note too. I am not including Beetlejuice in this.
Right. I think if we considered that a horror movie, I probably would have included Beetlejuice.
Yeah, in Hocus Pocus. Mm-hmm. To me, they fall in that category, but don't.
And The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, and The Nightmare Before Christmas. So, like, if we were talking about, like, I don't know, like, creepy, spooky movies,
Halloween, specifically related to Halloween.
Beetlejuice is one of my favorite movies. I would say top 5 movies, of all time. So, the other one was The Skeleton Key.
Ah, that's a good one.
Which is more of a thriller. Kate Hudson, Peter Sarsgaard, I believe his name is. It's... No, I was talking
with the Skarsgård family?
I don't know. They keep coming up. Maybe because I remember the name, so I keep saying it. But Sarah and I were talking about this because my husband's mother, Pam... Hi, Pam, if you listen to this. I don't know if you'll listen to this one, but... she doesn't really she hates scary movies. Mm-hmm. And so I asked Sarah, I'm like, okay, so like, what's a scarier movie that you think I could like show her where she wouldn't be super freaked out? The Skeleton Key. Mm-hmm. It was like a no-brainer. It's fantastic movie.
It's a thinker movie.
Yeah, it is. It's very well written. It's very well, the mood of it is it's so perfect. Mm-hmm. I can't say much without giving a lot away, but I love Kate Hudson. Mm-hmm. I really like her, like more in like the early 2000s, 90s Kate Hudson. But yeah, I recommend if you haven't seen that, it's worth watching. You can watch that with your family type of.
You know how I remember that movie? This is stupid, but how I remember that movie was it was showing on the airplane on my way back from Hawaii after I got married.
Oh my God.
That's how I remember that movie.
That's awesome. So it's like you can watch it with people around and like not have to like worry about people getting too freaked out.
I know. I'm kind of, when you have to pause, like I have 2 kids, so you know when you pause, I mean they're older, so I don't really have to, I don't guess, but I still do. You know, when you have to pause it and go back and forth, and then you forget what you watched because they're staying in the room with you, and
yeah.
Well, that's good to know. That is one that you could watch with your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's definitely freaky, but yeah. So, The Witch. We've already talked about this, but
see, now you're saying this stuff, and now I'm like,
for so many reasons.
I completely left out the M. Night Shyamalan whole genre of movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, like, we could even do one about directors, because big fan. But The Witch. I mean, if you haven't seen it, not everybody's cup of tea. It is rated one of the best best horror movie, like, top 50, I think. Something like that. It's based in 1630. Put your subtitles on. Because sometimes you can't always understand what they're talking about, but...
It's a lot of Quaker language.
Yeah, and if you've ever heard of Black Phillip, it is such another atmospheric movie. I really love atmospheric movies. I love kind of like the slow builds. Mm-hmm.
That one's a really slow build.
Very slow build. So definitely like be prepared for that. I appreciate that movie so much.
It's subtle.
That movie did it for me. It's hard to talk about these without giving it away if you haven't seen them.
That one especially is hard. Yeah.
It just did it for me. I mean, my mom actually... Oh, I have a story with The Witch. I don't know if I already told this, but I went with my friend Sarah, who did the Graveyard episode with us. And we were sitting there, and we were like... Because I usually go see my horror movies with her. We're sitting there, and all of a sudden, I hear my mom's voice.
Oh, that's funny.
And she's like, Sarah! And so her boyfriend... Charlie and her came and saw that movie. And so we watched the movie. They sit like way up and I like sitting in the front. So at the end I saw her trying to, I'm like, Mom, oh my God, I love that movie. How'd you like it? And she's like, well, I couldn't understand what they were saying through the whole movie.
It's hard, yeah.
I don't think I get it. So it's like you definitely have to be prepared for. It's not like a jump scare. It's nothing like that. But
you'll walk out thinking.
Oh.
And I mean anything, and I'm weird this way, but anything involving Puritans,
frightening.
It's frightening to me. I mean, I get scared of that Massachusetts Turnpike hat.
It's the religious structure.
Yeah, it's such a weird structure. It's such a...
It's very too rigid for me.
Very
but
rigid.
Robert Eggers, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And I think, did he do The Lighthouse? The movie that just came out? I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure it's the same director.
Is that the one with Robert Pattinson?
No.
No, okay.
No. Actually, he might have been in it. I haven't seen it. So
the one with the two lighthouse keepers? He is.
Yes, and it's like in black and white.
That is a weird...
I heard that's a weird one. I haven't gotten around to that one yet. But
we could do a whole episode on that movie alone.
I'll have to sit and watch it. So yeah, high recommend. So how many is that? I'm skipping around. So...
It's all right. You just keep going.
Rosemary's Baby. I mean, to me, that goes in a category of classic... horror movies that everybody needs to see.
Mia Farrow is gorgeous.
Beautiful. What a fantastic book. But fantastic movie. And it's another one that's hard to talk about because I feel like everybody should just see it. You should just see Rosemary's Baby.
Just see it. And it's another one that's an experience.
Oh, most definitely. Slow build, which most good horror movies are. Like, I don't want... Sometimes I like when they just jump right in. But you have to do it right. I'm actually looking up right now what the year was. Wasn't it the 70s?
I just keep opening my phone and seeing
Rosemary's Baby
The Terrifier.
Rosemary's Baby was actually 68.
Can you believe? That's when I was born.
I can't believe it. 68. So definitely a classic. Definitely worth a watch. Yeah. Fantastic. So, God, this was so hard. I'm going to do more than 5. I'm sorry. One of the scariest movies I've ever seen has made this list. In this movie, I have actually had to pause it because not that you will get followed by things, maybe you do, but it just taps into the fear of the night, and it taps into the fear is It Follows.
Oh, that's such a good one. I was trying to think of the name of that one, and I couldn't remember the name.
It should even stand alone in its own category. I think it's one of the most well-made horror movie. It came at a time when there was like this lull in horror movies, and it just...
The concept is completely new. It is not... There's nothing that compares to it.
No, not at all. I even thinking about it, I'm like, I can't watch that movie alone. And I can watch any movie alone. I can't watch this movie alone. It just does it. It just does it for me. I'm even like thinking about it and get like sweating because it's... You gotta see it.
It's a good one. It is a good one.
It's a good one. Honorable mentions that actually I thought about on the way over here. I wrote down was Midsummer, which is a newer movie.
Yep, that's a good one.
Ari Aster. He also did Hereditary, which I haven't seen yet.
That's a good one.
Midsummer is like woo. That's the type of horror movie. If you've seen Midsummer, that's the type of horror movie that I go for. Very weird, very cult based, very awesome. Silence of the Lambs, classic, and I think that covers the ones. Oh, The Thing. The Thing is one of my favorite movies. Like, besides from horror movies, The Thing is in one of my top 5 favorite movies. 82, John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, done. That's all you need to know.
Oh my gosh, and I can't believe I did not bring up... I'm sitting here thinking as you're...
Right?
I didn't bring up the Rob Zombie movies.
Oh, God. House of a Thousand Corpses.
And, The Devil's Rejects. And then there's a new one.
Oh, we looked it up. Salem. I always forget the name of that one. I didn't like it as much. That's probably why I can't remember it.
I'm sitting here looking it up right now. But those movies are great. I mean, there's a lot of gore. But... It's well placed.
And you know he made it. You know he did that.
3 from Hell is the other one.
Yep.
And his wife?
Babe.
Wow.
Babe.
Rob Zombie. Wow.
I think she's a fantastic actress.
She is. And she's great in these movies. And you can tell that she's overacting on purpose. And I love that about her. I think these movies are
She
fabulous.
plays her part that she's given. She does such a good job.
These are not the movies that you would sit and watch your family with your family.
Absolutely not.
These are the ones you would pause or probably turn off because the pause part would be too horrific to see. Mm-hmm. So you usually turn it off when your kids come into the room. Because
put your kids to bed.
Yes, put your kids to bed, lock them in the room. Yep. Yeah, make sure they are able to come out and see this.
Send them off to the grandparents.
But it's really... I'm so impressed with Rob Zombie as an actor, as a director, as a screenplay writer. I don't think he gets enough credit.
No, his music and his lyrics, and I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but he definitely, he thinks so different.
I remember the first time I ever laid eyes on him, he gave me nightmares. It was when MTV actually played videos.
Oh my God.
The video
such a long time ago.
The video for the remake of the song by Casey and Sunshine Band, I'm Your Boogeyman. And when it's just his face and there's rats crawling all through his hair and on his face.
I remember that.
Nightmares.
You're bringing back memories now. Yeah. I'm looking up Rob Zombie, what he looks like now. Oh, yeah. He still looks good.
Yeah, he does. Well, I mean, you got to look good to be next to that beautiful, lovely woman that he's married to.
I know, right?
She is lovely.
She is. Yeah, and he's from around here. I'm pretty sure he's from Marblehead. Mass.
I think you're right. You're right. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. And he has a brother, right? Something like that. Yeah. Wow. There's so many other movies we could talk about. It's so hard. I had some more facts about Hellraiser too. I forgot to mention. So, the original name that he wanted to name Hellraiser is Sadomasochist from Beyond the Grave.
Wow, I like Hellraiser better.
That was actually what it was supposed to be called, and then secondary to that, he wanted to call it Hellbound.
Mm-hmm. Now, Hellraiser 2 is Hellbound.
Hellbound, yeah, correct. I'm going to name off all the names of them because some of them are really funny. So there was Hellraiser 2, which is Hellbound, Hell on Earth, which I've seen but I don't remember what it was about, Bloodline, Inferno, Hellseeker, Deader. That's so silly. Hellworld, which was the rave one, Revelations, and then the newest one, 2018, was Judgment.
Wow.
Right? I should just sit and watch them all.
Now, I have a question. And this is another honorable mention for me. Where does The Crow fall into this?
That's a great question.
Is The Crow a horror movie?
No. I don't think so.
I just love it so much I had to mention it.
I'm so glad you did. I think it falls into comic book movies.
Yeah.
That's definitely where, or maybe in the same genre that Beetlejuice would fall.
Maybe, yeah. I just love everything about that movie, and I don't care if it's not a horror movie. I love everything about that movie.
Oh yeah.
And the other day I was watching a special on it about the Curse of the Crow, and that so many people had passed away.
Yes, at 27, right?
Yeah, and Brandon Lee, just the whole tragedy of that whole situation, and I just love that movie, and I love that The Cure does the soundtrack.
Oh yes, it's what a great sound. I used to have that soundtrack, and when I got my first car, I was 16. I had my CD player, and I had that in the CD player. And at the time, kiddos, you used to plug this cassette into your car with a cord that you attached to your CD player.
Oh God, I remember so well.
And so I would have to hold. It was supposed to be a non-skip, quote unquote, CD player. It was not. So I used to drive and hold it up so it stayed level, so I can blast the Crow soundtrack.
Such a good soundtrack.
Oh, so good. So good.
I know that totally went off on a tangent because it's not a horror movie, but
man, good.
Oh, such a good one.
We can even talk about, there's so much to talk about, horror series that we would consider horror, like Stranger Things. I thought it was fantastic.
The Walking Dead I loved. The first four. The first four, and then we gave up.
5 lost me. When they introduced Regan, is that his name? With the bat?
Negan.
After that scene with the bat, which I'm sure everybody's heard about, I stopped watching it.
I was done.
I was done. I was like, it was unnecessary gore, which is hard to say in a horror zombie thing,
movie,
but no, it lost me. It lost me at that. I heard it got little bit better after that season.
I just gave up. I mean, I seriously just basically I got tired of being awake at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night when I had to work the next day.
Yeah, I think someday I'll sit down maybe and watch it all. But
I've talked about that with Roger. I said, let's sit down one day and when on a rainy day, and let's just pull the old, because I'm going to have to go back to the beginning because I don't remember what Rick was doing back in season 1. I don't remember. So
right,
I
can't even imagine. I love the season where they found the house complex and they were living almost as like this like co-op
like an intentional community.
I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
And then after,
if you've got to live in a zombie apocalypse, I guess that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like all barred in.
I'd come find you. I'd come find you in Carson.
I would come find you because like we would be okay.
Yeah, we'd
be honestly, come find me at my dad's cabin because that's where we're gonna be.
We'd come find you. We'd be fine.
Yeah, I would just. My dad would know we were gonna be coming. That's where I would just start walking, and that's where I'd be. Yeah, because we would be fine in his non-disclosed location cabin in the middle of nowhere. So we're good.
Nice.
With all his fishing gear. I think before we end, honorable mentions of a horror movie that, even though it's not your favorite, that you recently saw that you recommend.
Oh, goodness. The only thing about it is it's hard for me to remember names. They all kind of...
Yeah. They all start
blend. They kind of all blend together. But, I don't know. I would have to say... I watched one last night that was really good. Nicolas Cage. It's a movie called Pay the Ghost. There's a lot of jump scares, which made it fun. I'm not a Nicolas Cage fan. I'm sorry, Nick Cage, if you ever listen to this. I'm sorry, man. You're not my favorite. You've made some really bad movies. I did love Con Air.
It's one of my favorite movies. So, Nick Cage, if you want to talk about Con Air...
Yeah, don't come and talk about anything else but Con Air and Pay the Ghost.
That hair, though.
Yeah, it's bad. Needed work. Well, last night his hair was better. It was like normal Nick Cage hair. But it's about a man who takes his little boy to a festival, Halloween festival. And literally, they're standing there getting ice cream, and the little boy disappears out of nowhere. And he and his wife separate, but they follow all these clues to figure out where he is, and he's beyond in a different realm with this lady who lost her kids back in the 1600s.
Whoa.
And she's taking all these kids.
What?
So yeah, it was crazy. It was a really crazy movie.
Was it on Hulu?
It was on Hulu, and it's called Pay the Ghost.
Pay the Ghost. Add it to the list.
I was pretty impressed with that, and the fact that I was impressed with the Nicolas Cage movie was really big.
Oh, so what? See, like he comes out with these movies, and I never hear about them anymore. The way movies are announced now, even before COVID, are very odd. Like all these really good movies are out there, but they don't really announce that they're there. Like random movies I found on Hulu, Netflix, even Prime.
Yeah.
I'm like, where? This movie was made last year. Yeah. What?
Oh, another one. Can I do another honorable mention? 1922. It is on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie. And it is basically about a farmer who goes crazy and kills his wife, and kind of has visuals of her coming back. It's not like a horror gore movie. It's just a psychological thriller. Good movie, really good movie. The guy has a real accent too. His accent's like in 1922.
Oh, yes,
yeah, it's great. Real thick, like just thick.
Awesome.
It's great.
Oh, I love thick Southern accents. So, the one that I know Lori has seen that I just saw is The Other Lamb.
Just watched it
on
a few days ago.
It was actually came out in 2019. Another movie that just randomly came out that I didn't hear about. I really enjoyed it. I don't think I would ever see it again, but the basis of it is this all-women's cult, and you'll notice right from the beginning, it takes place now, but they're living very...
Kind of like Handmaid's Tale.
Very Handmaid's Tale-esque. And it's an all-women's cult, but this person called the shepherd is their leader, and he's male. He kind of has Jesus vibes going on, very attractive, but just, it kind of unravels from there. It's kind of, I can see how it can be kind of disturbing for people because things like this actually do happen. And it's very outside of our norm. But there are cults like this out there where there's wives and daughters, and I won't go any farther than that. But it's on Hulu. If you like cult things, weird Jesus-like cult leaders, I recommend it.
It's very atmospheric.
Yeah.
It's very, like, there's not a lot of music.
Yep.
And I have a really hard time adjusting to movies that don't have a musical theme score.
Yeah.
and it didn't have a score.
No.
So it was really hard. Like, you had to deal with yourself. There was nothing to distract you from what was going on.
Yeah.
And
it made me feel really uncomfortable.
Me too. Yeah.
For certain reasons, cult reasons that happen, and it was very real. And actually, those are more the type of movies that I like, that things that could actually happen, and Hellraiser could happen. I'm just saying.
Exactly. Hellraiser could happen. The Cenobites could come here. Where's the puzzle box?
Oh my god. So, I think that's a good place to end.
I think it is a good place to end. We were just talking about this. We would love to hear from you about your favorite horror movies.
Please do. Because we're going to be talking about horror movies all the month of
Oh,
October.
because it's scary time, folks.
Mm-hmm.
It is scary time.
Yep, and we're going to talk about... So pretty much our whole October is going to be us talking about horror movies. And we're going to get into some witchery. We're going to go into history. Mm-hmm. That's one of our plans. And a little bit of spooky stories.
Spooky stuff.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So, yeah.
And even a bit of spooky top fives.
Spooky top
and
fives.
Sarah is going to join us again.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Sarah Adam, who's
Yes.
in our cemetery talk, she will join us again. And this is the best month out of the year when you live in New England.
Absolutely.
I personally think so. Yeah.
Put your Puritan hat on and celebrate.
Yeah, get your spooky on. I'm going to wear my bat dress.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's September right now, but I don't care. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
See you later, guys.
Bye.